dogfight. You had to dig deep. Give us your thoughts.
Surprise, surprise, motherfucker! The king is back!
In the MMA episode, we are joined by none other than Mr. Hemaka, who's been on this show before. Last time he was in France, I believe, when he did this. Now he's back in Sri Lanka for a vacation.
Yeah.
So, Hemaka, how are you doing?
I am doing very well, man. Thank you for having me back on the podcast. You can tell my mother I'm a return guest on the Grandstand podcast. Very, very happy to be here.
No, we're definitely glad to have you. Glad to have you back. It's been an interesting year, I think, in MMA. We had UFC 300 this year. We should have done an episode for UFC 300, but we didn't.
Right. He totally deserves his own episode.
Yeah,
I'm heartbroken after that episode, man. After that whole card.
100%. Yeah, but we are back now, and we do have a bunch of topics that we want to go through. But we're recording this on Sunday, the 23rd, which is one day after Robert Whitaker demolished Ikram on short notice, and once again made a stamp in the middleweight division as one of the best middleweights in the world. I think you can easily say that.
Yeah.
What do you think of Whitaker's win?
Okay, there's like a few things to consider before giving the breakdown of Whittaker versus Alex Pereira. That's a Dagestani that he's fighting. Dagestanis by nature are legendary fighters, and Sambo warriors and Sambo fighters. They come with the best wrestling by arguably the best wrestling in the world. And then you have people like Islam Makhachev who also have top-notch striking on top of that.
Updates available.
Yeah.
And Robert Whitaker has been in the middleweight division for quite a long time, so he has that experience to build on top of. But again, when you're fighting like contenders like that, given your age, given your experience, given how long you've been in the UFC, given how much punishment you've taken, given how much the damage you've taken, it's quite hard to fight someone who's kind of up and coming. And like take Ilya Topuria, for instance. True, Alex Volkanovski took that fight on a short notice, but you saw what happened to him. He got absolutely wrecked by Ilya Topuria.
Yeah.
Robert Whitaker had he had the ample opportunity to get knocked out and to be humiliated, to be like hurt by that fight, but he still took it and he wiped the floor with him. Wiped the floor. There was no chance in that first round fight where Alex Pereira ever took the lead, was ever pushing the pace. So hats off to Robert Whitaker just for that.
Yeah, definitely. I think Whittaker, I've always thought Whittaker was one of the best fighters in the division, and he's only lost to champions, right? In I think the last 7 years, he lost to DDP and he lost to Izzy. That's it. Everyone else he's beaten. He beat Paulo Costa, he beat Marvin Vettori. I think I would have loved to see him fight Chimaev, but unfortunately Khamzat Chimaev just can't seem to find a way to get into the octagon and fight.
He always finds a way to get sick before a big fight.
Honestly, like I think Chimaev is so I don't know if it's unlucky or he's just not preparing correctly, but he always seems to not be able to get into the octagon. But I personally thought Ikram was, like you mentioned, a really tough fight because he's a Sambo fighter from Dagestan. These guys are always super dangerous, and Ikram is 15-1, and his only loss is to Khamzat. So he's just beaten everyone else. But I think Whittaker just showed that, like you said, he's a different level, right? He's one of the top 4 middleweights in the world easily.
It also goes to show that you can really call on that experience. The guy's had 30 odd fights.
Yeah.
And all the fights that he's had are like the highest pedigree. He's fought fighters of the highest pedigree. So you can always call upon that experience. And I don't know if you'd agree with this, but rewatching the fight, Ikram, he looked very stiff throughout the entire first round. It's like he had an adrenaline dump almost. There are a lot of fighters that can attest to this, that they've said that they had this adrenaline dump soon after they enter the octagon. And it just, I don't know, for me, it seemed like Ikram had that adrenaline dump and just seemed like very unsteady, very unsure of himself.
Yeah, true. I think, I think Whittaker looked so intense at the stare down as well.
Dude,
like
the walk-in was crazy.
Yeah.
His face was just stone cold. He had a stone cold face while walking in. Honestly, I felt scared.
Yeah, he looked like he was locked in, and I don't think he was going to lose that fight the way he came in, because I really thought Ikram was going to take him down, and because his wrestling is so good, but I mean, Whittaker was so clinical with the striking. Even when he caught him, he didn't rush in. He hit him with a head kick, then he went uppercut, finished him. I think it was just beautiful. I, I'm really interested to see what Whittaker does if he can get back to a title shot. But on that note, I
Yes.
think there is another fighter who I think is in line for a title shot in the middleweight division, and that is a former champ, Sean Strickland, who also just beat Paulo Costa. And I think this lends nicely into our next conversation about the middleweight championship. But um, who who do you think gets the title shot? Is it Strickland? Is it Whittaker? Is it
Mm.
Hamzat comes back straight into a title shot? What's gonna happen in the middleweight division?
So correct me if I'm wrong, but Whittaker just beat Ikram Alex Pereira coming off the loss from DDP, right? Okay, so
He beat Paulo Costa. He beat Costa.
Oh,
and,
right.
Yeah.
So that leaves the champion. That leaves the current champion right now, DDP. There's the number one contender, Sean Strickland. Then there's Izzy, and then before yesterday, the number three was Robert Whitaker.
Yeah.
So I would dearly, dearly love to see the matchup between Izzy and DDP, and thank God it's happening in UFC 305. So thank God that matchup was made, because that currently is the perfect matchup to make. So that leaves Robert Whitaker versus Sean Strickland.
Yes.
Robert Whitaker versus Sean Strickland. I swear to God, if it's anything like the way Paulo Costa versus Sean Strickland was promised to be, I will lose my mind. But I don't think it will be, because Robert Whitaker always delivers. There's no boring fight between Robert Whitaker and any of his opponents. So I am super excited for that fight, and that is definitely the fight I want to see. So the number one and number two contender versus number two and number three. Number one and number three. The champ versus number two, and then number one, number three.
So you're saying they should make Strickland Whittaker for the number one contender fight, whoever wins from Izzy and DDP. I think that makes a lot of sense, I think.
I think they should do it after the title fight.
After the title fight. Okay.
Yeah, I think they should do it after the title fight. I mean, 304, it's too early anyway.
Yeah. True. And I think all these guys have fought each other, right? So DDP's beat Whittaker, Izzy's fought Whittaker, Strickland's fought Izzy, Strickland's fought DDP. So I think it's like a whole triangle square kind of thing going on. But
it's a quadrilateral. I love quadrilateral.
Yeah, I think that'll be really interesting, because doesn't seem like I think it'll be really unfair if Hamzat comes straight into a title shot, in my opinion. As hyped as he is, like, these guys have been like, I mean, Strickland is so active, right? He fights all the time, and like so is Whittaker. Like, Whittaker's fought so many times. You need to like reward that activity and those wins, I think, with a title shot. So I fully agree. I think if they make the number one contender fight between Whittaker and Strickland, that would make a lot of sense, for sure.
Yeah, Strickland. Okay, my basis for putting Strickland in a number one contender fight is purely because he's positioned for that fight, not because of his performances. His performance with Izzy, outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Dude, what was that against Paulo Costa? You can't promise a UFC crowd that you would you would fight to the last breath and then do that against Paulo Costa. That was a sham. Not only was it a sham, it was an absolute scam.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
So purely based off of activity, I don't want to give Sean Strickland, but because of where he's positioned in the rankings of the middleweight division, you can't not make that matchup.
True. I think, I mean, I think that's just, it's also like his fighting style. I mean, the way he speaks before fight and what he does in the cage is two different things. He says that he's going to make you bleed and do all those things, and then he comes and just jabs for like for 5
Keeps
rounds.
his distance.
But I don't think he's going to be able to do that against Whittaker, just because how good Whittaker is. I think it's going to get into a more, like you said, it's going to be a more of a firefight. So definitely, I think that'll be a really interesting fight to watch. But we'll talk about the middleweight title, and we'll talk about UFC 305, I think. Izzy versus DDP, the fight that everyone's been wanting to see for like a year. It almost happened. Then Izzy beat Strickland, and Strickland beat Izzy rather, and there were a lot of things that happened in between. But two African champions, I guess, the way they want to frame it. And
Who's the real African?
yeah, the lead up to that fight is very very racial and very ugly, I'd say. But the fight itself, I think, is super interesting. Who are you picking?
First of all, again, like you said, the fight is super interesting because there's bad blood between them, and every time there's bad blood, there's almost always an intention to draw blood, right? To put on a good fight, not only for yourself but for your fans and to get revenge almost.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we break down, let's say, fighting styles, you look at Izzy, right? Izzy is lean, he's tall, he's super tall. I think Dricus is only like 6'1" or something, and Izzy's like 6'4". He's almost the same height as John Jones. Izzy's long, he's lean, he keeps his distance, and he's a goddamn sniper, dude.
Yeah.
Izzy's so good at being a sniper, doing what he does with his long jab, with his beautiful beautiful right cross. And you put that up against someone like Dricus, who is a bulldozer, right? The guy, he literally bulldozed his way through the UFC.
Yeah.
And there is a caveat to that, because I don't know if you ever noticed this, but by round 2 or by round 3 or in title fights by round 4, Dricus is almost always gassed.
True.
He's almost always gassed. His mouth is open. He's breathing hard, and against someone like Izzy, who is a beautiful counter striker, who is amazing, who's very, very good at that. That is an extremely dangerous opening for Izzy. So if I had to put my money, I would put all my chips on Izzy for that fight.
I completely agree with you, because I think the way I'll say this is, I think if we see the best version of Israel Adesanya, like, which I think is pre Sean Strickland, I think, because I don't think, probably Pereira. I mean, Pereira is a different anomaly, and I think those two like have crazy fights. But yeah, if you see the one that fought Pereira, I think even in both Pereira fights, he was really good. Even though he got finished in the first one, I think he was controlling the fight quite a bit. If we saw,
he was,
so if we see him pre Sean Strickland, if we see that Izzy, the one that stays at range and counters you, like especially if you think of his performance against Paulo Costa, which I think is
I was gonna bring it up. Yes,
one of the most beautiful striking performances you'll ever see. If we see that kind of Izzy against DDP, I really don't see how stylistically DDP is gonna beat him. Because I mean, unless DDP is able to take him down, which is not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to take Izzy down.
But again, DDP has like one submission.
Yeah.
He won one fight by submission. And yes, he's good at wrestling because he's got the mass, right?
Yeah.
Look at Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum was able to take down Izzy, if I'm not mistaken. Jan Blachowicz, who was bigger when he was fighting Izzy, was able to take him down. So anyone who's just bigger by mass has an advantage in the wrestling over Izzy. But Izzy's got good takedown defense as well. And again, you have to close that distance. Like Mighty Mouse says, you need to close that void. So again, doing that against Izzy is incredibly hard. I do not know how Dricus is going to pull that off.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dricus hasn't subbed anyone in years. I think the last one is probably I just looked it up. I think it's Darren Till.
Yes, by Rio Negativo, right?
That's like about 3 years ago. So he hasn't subbed anyone in quite some time. And yeah, like you said, it's not the easiest thing to take Izzy down. So if we see the best version of Izzy, which I don't know if we will, because usually when champions lose and they're a little older and they try to come back, it doesn't always happen unless you're like maybe John Jones.
Or your GSP.
Or GSP, yeah, next level. I mean, yeah, GSP is like a prime athlete, so it's really hard to compare anyone to him. But if we do see the best of Izzy, which we could see, I really think his style is so difficult for DDP. I think he's going to destroy DDP because, like you said, like fighting from range and what he does, his striking is so crisp. The only person I think who can probably outstrike him is Pereira, and he's left the division. And Strickland also, I guess, because of what we saw. But yeah, definitely, I'm with you on that. I think if Izzy does come back, I would pick him to beat DDP.
Okay. This is gonna sound like a bit of a segue or tangent, but it's not. Do you know Firas Zahabi, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Firas Zahabi,
BSP's coach. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. TriStar Gyms. He commentates on how Conor's fighting style, because Conor is a sniper as well.
Yeah.
And the guy fights using all of his fast twitch muscle fibers, but there's a price to pay for that. I think it was John Danaher that said this. And there's a price to pay for that fast twitch muscle fiber.
Yeah.
For all that speed, for all that power behind the left hand, which is you gas early.
Yeah.
Okay. Izzy's proven to go the distance and have great cardio and be that good of a sniper.
Yeah.
And to be that good of a counter striker and to have that power in the right hand. And Drickus is proven to have gassed by the middle rounds, or by round 3, or by round 4.
True.
So again, this is another advantage that you can pile on Izzy's chips, right? If you stack chips by the ways that a fighter can win, I've got Izzy's stack and then Drickus's stack.
Yeah.
It's so hard to give this fight to Drickus, in my opinion. It's just that hard. If he pulls it off, dude, kudos to him. He deserves that title. He can hold on to it for as long as he likes.
No,
I just don't see it going Drickus's way.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one thing that I'll also say is, if you look at Izzy's fights, apart from the Paulo Costa and probably the Alex Pereira one, because that was so intense, most of his fights are very like, when people try to kickbox with him, he's not the most interesting guy to watch. I think if you watch like the Jared Cannonier fight, he'll just stay at range and like he'll just pick you apart from distance because he can do it. But I
technically sound.
Yeah, he's always so technically sound, but I think DDP is gonna make this fight interesting, and one of these guys are gonna get knocked out. I feel, because I think either he's gonna knock DDP out in like the 4th round, or DDP is gonna come in early and like against Whittaker, he might catch him. But I think it's definitely gonna be a really, really interesting fight, because it's gonna be such a clash of styles.
It really is,
in my opinion. Yeah.
But I do still think that round 1 will be easy and it'll be a bit boring.
Yeah.
I don't know, but by some miracle of God, if Drickus takes him down and then just TKOs him in round 1, it's highly unlikely, but that would be the only way he wins early.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I think either way, I think it's a super fascinating fight to watch. But and like the middleweight division, so interesting. I think one of the most interesting divisions to watch in the sport right now. But yeah, we'll move on to what it was supposed to be, from one big fight, but was supposed to be maybe the biggest fight of the year. The fight that was meant to happen for the last 2 years, and we're still waiting.
3 years, man. It has to be
the last 3 years. We are still waiting. Michael Chandler is still waiting, putting self-help quotes on Instagram. But yeah, we had Conor versus Chandler that was meant to happen 1 week from today. So many things changed. It was announced, but finally, no, Conor McGregor is not coming back, and he's not fighting Michael Chandler. He's got a broken toe. What do you make of all this? I don't even know what question. What do you make of all this?
I got you. Here's your clip, by the way. it's about to come. To me, Michael Chandler is like the simp at prom who waits and waits for the beautiful girl to accept his request to go to prom with him, but she ends up going with another dude. I don't want to guarantee anything, but if this happens, I wouldn't be too surprised. Conor McGregor decides to take a title fight against Islam Makhachev because Islam Makhachev is open to that.
Yeah.
Because that's such a huge fight. That is, oh my God, that is so much bigger than the potential for the Conor Chandler fight. Yes, there's going to be a lot of action. There's going to be blood. There's going to be a lot of ground and pound, a lot of action. But the significance and the legacy between the Dagestanis and Conor's team, Conor's history, Conor's legacy with Khabib, and then Khabib's prodigy, who is now Islam Makhachev, Conor's champion.
Yeah,
that's an amazing storyline. And as Daddy or Uncle Chael says, you will always want a storyline. And that fight will be so much more attractive to Dana White if he ever wants to make that matchup. So I would not be too surprised if the Conor Chandler fight falls through and it's an Islam Makhachev fight. But you also asked about what I think about that fight, right? How that would pan out.
Yeah,
man. Again, Michael Chandler opens himself to so much danger. You saw how he got rocked with Justin Cage. He got rocked with Charles Oliveira. He got rocked with Dustin Poirier. He always leaves himself open to so much damage, and you cannot do that against Conor.
Yeah.
With the exception of Charles Oliveira, I think Conor hits harder than the rest of the lightweight division with that one left hand, or maybe Gaethje as well. Actually,
Yeah, Gaethje,
I don't know.
Poirier,
We'll have to-
maybe, I think. But yeah, I agree. I think that's a very interesting point with regards to like Islam and Conor, because if Conor gets, I think, simply put it, what Conor wants, Conor gets, right? Because he's Dea's favorite fighter. He's the biggest star in the sport still, I think. Even though I don't really care much about him, I personally don't really care to watch Conor McGregor. That's just me, because I think he's like washed, but I think he's still the biggest star. Like, he's the one that every person who watches the UFC knows, even casual fans would just know who Conor McGregor is.
Yeah, because you're not a casual, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason for you to like Conor, just stylistically speaking.
Yeah,
or
and like
technically speaking.
I mean, I think he was really good. I don't think he's like really good anymore, my personal opinion. But I think the thing with the Islam fight is, I think Conor would definitely take it because it's a huge fight. But also, I think Islam would kill Conor. Like, I don't see that fight going like
Would massacre him, dude.
he would murder him in like probably 2 rounds. Maybe like the first, like he murders him in the first round, and the second round he just finishes him. And
Yeah, he's so washed.
and like that camp and the animosity they've had with Conor, it would just be, it would be it would be a huge fight. It would be one of the biggest fights they can make. And Michael Chandler would be left in the dust. So either way, I think if Conor does get the opportunity, he'll probably take it. And I feel really bad for Chandler. But yeah, I mean, with regards to the fight itself, McGregor Chandler, I think it would be hard to call, because I think, like you said, even though McGregor's not like at his best, Chandler also gets hit so much, like he leaves himself open to get hit so much. So it would have been an interesting fight. But I'll frame it this way: if you're Michael Chandler, what do you do? Like, do you fight someone else in this division now, or do you still keep waiting for this, for this prize that you're meant to have, but doesn't seem to be coming?
Oh, I saw this weird I think it was an Instagram post about the pre-pay-per-view sales, the prediction for the pre-pay-per-view sales, and uh, I think the factor of Chandler's earnings would be 10x than what he makes over the course of 10 fights in the UFC versus what he would make with the fight with Conor. So financially speaking, yes, it makes sense to wait. Like, legacy-wise, you're fighting a fighter who hasn't fought in 4 years. He's just overhyped by casual fans. And yes, it does something to your legacy because Conor is that big of a person and that big of a personality and that big of a character. But it's purely technically and just from a fighter's aspect, fighting Conor doesn't prove much.
Yeah.
Especially now with all his injuries and a broken toe. It just doesn't prove much, man. Maybe it's probably some people would disagree with me on that, and I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised, but it's just how I feel about it.
No, I mean, I agree 100%. I'll give you a couple of options. If you're Michael Chandler, if not for Conor McGregor, do you go for like the Gaethje rematch? Do you go for the Poirier rematch?
Poirier rematch. 100% Dustin Poirier rematch, dude. With what Dustin Poirier did against Islam Makhachev, coming that close, I mean, I would 100% go for that fight with Dustin Poirier. Plus, Justin Gaethje is Justin Gaethje is an absolute animal, dude. He would kill you the same way he did back against Dustin Poirier and against Michael Chandler as well. I would not go pick that fight with Justin Gaethje. Again, I am a huge Justin Gaethje meat rider. I'm a simp for Justin Gaethje. I do admit that. So yeah, I would take that fight with Dustin Poirier. He's got more value behind his name right now.
Yeah, 100%. I would love to see Dustin Poirier get a win. So yes, please fight Michael Chandler and please get that win, because that would be really fun to watch.
I like both of those dudes, man. I can't. It's really hard for me to pick someone between them. I really like both fighters.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, like you said, I think that's all we can say about the Conor fight. I don't know if it's gonna happen. Still looks like Chandler's gonna wait. It's his life, it's his decision. Like you said, it's probably a huge monetary gain for him if he does wait for Conor, if it does actually happen. But will Conor fight again? No one knows apart from Conor. But speaking about UFC 303 and pulling out of fights, I think there is one man who has been the biggest star in the UFC over the last year. He came in short notice for UFC 300. He's fighting again on two broken toes. This man has, I think, he's probably maybe the biggest star, active star in the UFC right now, and that is Alex Pereira. Do you think he's the biggest star in the UFC right now? What is it?
Purely again with the activity, the crowd, what he's doing, moving up weight classes, the people he fights. Yes, he is the biggest star in the UFC right now. A close second would be Sean O'Malley, I think.
Yes.
A close second would be Islam Makhachev or Sean O'Malley.
Yes. I agree.
But yes, Alex Pereira is the biggest.
Yeah, definitely. I agree as well. I think O'Malley is a good shout because he does have a different kind of audience as well. A lot of like a younger crowd really resonates with him, and he's had some really good wins lately. So Islam also, I think, is low-key really funny, even though people don't really like notice it. He's quite funny.
He's such a scumbag, man. He's such a content scumbag. But whatever everything gets up to with DC, he's an absolute scumbag on interviews. I guess he gets that from Habib.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. I think the way he like roasts people, like with his broken English and everything, it's quite, I find it quite funny. Yeah. But
amazing guy though. I love the mentor.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, so with regards to Pereira and Prohashka, we saw this fight about not a year ago, but about 8-9 months ago. And Alex knocked him out with a left hook, as he usually does to everyone. But he is coming with two broken toes. And he's coming in on short notice, just after a fight with Jamal Hill. What do you think? I mean, it wasn't really a fight, but he's coming off a fight. He's cutting weight.
He's coming off a sparring session.
Coming off a sparring session with Jamal Hill. What do you think? I'll ask you this: like, what do you think Yuri's path to victory is? Because I don't think anyone in any division should try to stand with Alex Pereira. So, what do you think Yuri's gonna?
You're asking to be slept, man.
Yeah.
Well, by the logic of like the process of elimination, you have to take him down and keep him there for 5 rounds, and you have to initiate that process for five times over the course of 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Yuri's keys to winning. Hold him down, ground and pound. And I don't know how well Alex will do against submission attempts, purely because he knocks the shit out of everyone that tries to even get close to him. With knees, with that goddamn left hook. I don't know how well he does against submission attempts. So if Yuri's not really known for submission attempts as well. I mean, he is really good. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's what else?
He tapped
all of his knockouts have come. Haven't all of his knockouts come through? Most of his wins come through knockout.
Yeah, almost everything's come through knockout except for like that one fight where he tapped Glover Teixeira at the end of that crazy fight.
Oh yeah. That was Glover's fault, man. That was Glover's fight.
Yeah. I mean, definitely Glover Teixeira won the fight, but that was an insane fight, one of the best fights of all time, I think. But yeah, I agree with you. I think him submitting Alex is the only way I see him winning this fight, because I don't see
if you stack the skill cards, I think Alex Pereira's stack is taller than Yuri's in the same stats. So again, I don't see how Alex loses this, man. I mean, exactly. I don't see how Alex loses this.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sorry, Yuri fans.
But at least I guess the fact that he has 2 broken toes might make it more interesting might make it closer.
Well, he's just not gonna kick his leg. I mean, even if you kick the leg, right, it's just the shin that hits him.
Yeah.
And again, that left hook, dude.
Yeah. I mean, and like what a Chad, right? Like just taking fights wherever he wants. Just the absolute monster, I think. He's single-handedly saved the UFC this year. with what he's
Oh,
done.
he's a goddamn dude. He should be paid so much more money than what he gets for a
Yeah.
typical UFC payout. He should be paid boxing money.
Yeah.
He really should. I think stars like that, who like you said, save the year, who
Yeah.
save multiple cards, dude,
Yeah.
they deserve to be paid so much more money, man. Again, that's a whole other topic. Yeah.
Okay, so finally, I think we do have another card between Izzy DDP and Prohashka versus Pereira next week, and that is the fight happening in the UK, and that is uh, Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad finally getting his title shot. I'll ask you, what is your pick for that fight? And we also need to talk about, I think we need to just touch on Islam Makhachev may potentially moving up to the welterweight division. So
Okay.
what do you think is going to happen there, if depending on who wins, and what do you think about Islam moving up?
First of all, I don't want Leon Edwards to poke Bilal Muhammad's eye out again. I would dearly love to not see that. Bilal's got Dagestani wrestling now, I hope.
Yes.
Given that he's been training with that camp. But again, Leon Edwards is known for having very, very good takedown defense and very good wrestling defense. Again, is it enough to keep up with Bilal's wrestling? It's a question to be answered. If I assume yes, then Leon Edwards outstrikes Bilal Muhammad. If the wrestling keeps up and Bilal keeps getting takedowns in the beginnings of the round, especially, I think Bilal outscores him and wins either unanimously or majority decision. Again, it's up to that wrestling, man. That's the biggest X factor there. Depends on the wrestling.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like you said, just to explain what Hemaka said, like Bilal has been training with Habib's camp for some time now, and obviously that means the wrestling is gonna get better when you train with those guys. So I think we'll see an improved Bilal Muhammad from the last time he fought. From last time he fought.
Oh yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%.
Yeah, but also I think a lot of people don't give. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But a lot of people don't really appreciate how good Leon Edwards is. But I think he's a tremendous fighter. Just the two fights against Usman shows that, against Colby as well. He's not super aggressive. He's not a very aggressive fighter, but he's technically so sound and he's very difficult to take down. He's good everywhere.
Yeah. And it's also like he came into his own after winning the title.
Yes.
Like he sort of owns that middleweight the welterweight championship. He sort of owns that. He has his own like presence now, and he wants to keep that title. Whereas when he was leading up to it, he had there was an aura that Usman had, right?
Yes.
And lost all 4 rounds, was losing the 5th round, and then gets the head kick dream knockout, right? But leading from there to the second fight, Leon Edwards dominated that fight.
Yes.
Edwards won that fight very convincingly.
He took Usman down, right? I believe he took.
Dude, yeah, who takes Usman down, by the way?
Yeah.
Who takes Usman down? I think Hamzat had like troubles taking Usman down.
Yeah.
And that's Hamzat Shimaev. God damn.
Yeah, who's massive, who's like huge. So no, I mean I agree. I think after winning the title, I mean there's this like quote from I believe I don't know who said it, but it's some boxing coach who says it. That you become 50% better than who you are once you win a championship. And I think that's so true for Edwards, because I think he's gotten so much better. He really controls fights when fights come to him. And like you said, it depends on who wins the wrestling exchanges, but I would pick him to beat Belal, I think.
Yeah, so like he edges him by a bit.
Yeah, true. But we do, let's say if he does beat Bilal, and if Islam, I don't know who Islam might probably fight Arman next. Let's say he beats Arman. And
that's a good matchup as well, man.
It is.
That's a good matchup as well.
It is definitely. I think.
Should we touch on that like really quick? Arman Tsarukyan versus Islam Makhachev.
It's gonna be a really good fight. The thing is, like, you tell me what your pick will be for that fight.
Okay, the later it goes, the higher the chance for Islam to win. I think Arman Tsarukyan is absolutely dangerous in round 1, round 2, and even round 3. Dude, the guy is so dangerous. He hits so hard, and he has the presence. Like he takes up the middle of the octagon. He pushes the pace, and Islam, sure, he does take the center of the octagon, but not against people who traditionally are more dominant and more standoffish.
Yeah.
So against Arman Tsarukyan, I think Arman is going to get the middle. middle of the octagon. He's gonna push the pace, and if he gets that right hand, because Islam has been knocked out before,
Yes.
Islam has been caught before. If he gets that right hand, or a punch manages to sneak through and he leads up behind that, he follows up behind that, dude, Arman Tsarukyan might beat him.
Yeah, I think
Dude, there is a possibility.
there is, I think, a good way to sum up Islam. I don't know if it's a good way, but one way you can sum up Islam is, firstly, I'm a huge Islam Makhachev fan. I think he's the best fighter in the world right now.
That's
But
fair.
he takes so much more risks than Habib did. And that's what makes him so interesting, because he stands up, like he stands with people when you don't have to stand with him, and when you can take them down, he wants to stand, he wants to show his striking, and he's a really, really good, very underrated striker, I think. And he's very good. He's
Oh
better
yeah,
striker than Habib.
100%.
But Habib never took so much risks, and that's why Habib was so dominant. Like, he used to win every minute of every fight, because he just takes you down and he controls you and he wins the fight, right? But Islam doesn't do that all the time. He tries to strike with you, and that leaves him open for like shots. Like, Dustin tagged him in that fight a few times. Like, he didn't drop him.
Yeah,
but
the
he
elbow.
tagged him. And Arman's got a real, like, we saw what Arman did to Benny Dariush, right? He just knocked him out with an uppercut so clean. So it's going to be a really, really fascinating fight to watch. I think, I don't know which card it's going to be on, but probably should be in the Middle East, given those two fighters' origins. But
Yeah, the crowd that Islam draws in the Middle East is crazy.
it's
Again,
mad.
like popularity of the fighters depends on the continent they fight on, right? Like
Yeah.
Sean O'Malley, huge, like the biggest draw in the US by far.
Yes.
I think in Europe, who was the biggest fighter in Europe?
Leon
I guess
Edwards,
Alex,
maybe. Oh,
Leon
Alex.
Edwards, probably Leon Edwards. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's Leon Edwards. If they do fights in South America, then the Brazilians will obviously get the title, the number one spot there.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
for sure.
in Saudi and the Middle East, it's almost always Islam, man.
Yeah,
It's always
100%.
the Russians and Dagestanis.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fascinating fight. From a martial arts perspective, it's going to be a really, really like high level MMA fight. Both guys really good. I would probably like just slightly give the edge to Islam, because it's really hard to pick against him.
Oh, I wouldn't say slightly, man. I wouldn't say slightly.
Yeah,
Islam has a big advantage.
yeah.
That experience, you can't buy that experience. You can't buy that training and that quality of training camp that Islam gets. You can't buy that anywhere else. You can't get that anywhere else either. So yeah, I think he prepares well enough for Arman.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in terms of let's say Islam does win, and he's been talking about moving up. What do you think he should move up? Do you think he should stay and defend his title more?
All right.
What do you think?
Let's break it down. This is the one problem I have with Dagestanis, the legendary fighters. But like you said, Khabib never took a risk.
Yeah.
Khabib never moved up a division. I don't think he could have moved down, because like by nature, by genetics, they're just huge. They can pack on mass easily. Yeah. They're really big. Khabib right now, I think he's walking around in like 90 kgs or something outrageous.
He's massive.
But these guys are big, man, so they can't move down a bit. And Khabib could have moved up and fought GSP for a legacy fight. That would have been a brilliant fight to make. Never happened. I really, really do want to see a Dagestani prodigy at the level that Islam is, to move up a division and challenge himself. That's very important if you really want to call yourself the pound for pound GOAT. All greatest of all time, regardless. Like, this is an important argument to make, important point to make as well. So yes, I think if he wants to solidify his legacy as the GOAT, the greatest of all time, the best to ever do it, the greatest fighter to ever walk the surface of the earth, yes, he has to move up in divisions and fight people like Leon Edwards, who are, I think he's taller. I think he is taller. Longer reach, heavier, and Leon Edwards also has the wrestling defense. So yes, he must challenge himself.
Yeah, I mean I agree. I agree partially, because I think there's the reason I think it'll be interesting for him to move up, because he's beaten almost everyone in the lightweight division now. Like, if he beats Arman, there's no one else left for him to fight, like, unless he wants to fight like Volk moves up and fights him for the third time. But I don't think, I mean, it'll be an interesting fight, but I think he beats Volk again. So He's beaten Oliveira, he's beaten Poirier, he's beaten he's the only guy he hasn't fought is Gaethje. So
He
but
beats
even
Gaethje.
yeah, I think he beats Gaethje as well. It'll be an
I hate to
interesting
say
fight. Yeah, I think he beats Gaethje.
he smokes Gaethje, man.
Yeah,
He takes him down once and then that's it.
yeah, I agree. I think he beats Gaethje as well. Holloway might be an interesting fight, maybe, but once again,
Oh, how did we forget Holloway? God damn.
yeah,
Yes.
maybe Holloway will be interesting. Once again, it's
Dude, lightweight Holloway is dangerous.
yeah, but I want to see
See,
Holloway
that fight has to happen as well. That fight really has to happen.
Yeah, but
But yeah, sorry.
if he does move up, I think from all the people in this weight class and around his weight class, Leon Edwards will be the toughest matchup for him for exactly the reasons you said. Such a well-rounded fighter, and like I just don't know if Islam's gonna be able to take him down and like do the usual wrestling stuff to him. And I think Leon is a better striker than him. So
If he does,
yeah,
dude, I mean, you can't. I love John Jones, but can you really keep John Jones as pound for pound number one? If he goes up in weight and does that to Leon Edwards,
yeah.
it's hard to hold that. It's hard for John to hold that title, man. If he does that.
I mean, me personally, I think Islam is a pound for pound number one now. John
Do
hasn't
you?
fought.
Okay, I think John's pound for pound number one right now.
I mean, John hasn't fought like he beat Gane last year. He hasn't fought in over a year and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole other discussion who he's gonna fight. I personally think he should fight Tom. I don't know why he's trying to fight Stipe, to be honest. Stipe is already so old. He's been fought in like Stipe hasn't had a win in the last 5 years, if I'm correct. Like his last fight was a loss against Francis. So
Was it? Oh, was it not? Oh, yeah, it was Francis, not DC, right?
yeah, he beat DC, but I think that was more than I want to say it was like 5 years ago, maybe.
It was a long time ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a long time ago. This
So
is back when John was in light heavyweight
like him,
and like
yeah.
destroying everyone.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think I would, like I said, we'll see if Islam can move up. I think he will. I think if he beats Arman, I don't think he stays around. I think he's gonna push himself. Maybe he vacates the belt. Maybe he becomes double champ. But he seems like he wants a newer challenge. He doesn't want to stay in this division. And there's more Dagestani guys. Usman Nurmagomedov is coming. He's still 25, 26. He's in
Yes.
PFL, so maybe he moves to the UFC and takes.
Is he not featherweight though?
Usman is a lightweight. He's lightweight.
Is he lightweight? Okay, my
Yeah.
bad. Thought it was a featherweight.
But yeah, I mean he's undefeated as well. So there's a lot of Dagestani domination still to come, I feel.
Something in the water, man. I'm telling you.
There's something in the water there. Who knows what it is. But yeah, I think that brings to an end our MMA segment for this week. Well, I mean, hopefully, depending on how when this episode comes out, we'll try to do more MMA content because, like I said,
There's so much more to cover as well. Yeah.
there's definitely loads more to cover. There's more like combat sports, boxing
Like
stuff.
you said, we could do an entire breakdown on UFC 300. That card
100%.
was stacked. That was a beautiful card, man. Like there's so much that we can go we can talk about about UFC 300.
Definitely, and even the fights that we've touched on today, like the Edwards Muhammad fight, like the UK card. There's big fights. There's Aspinall Blades happening on that same
Oh,
card.
yeah, Chris Blades.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, hopefully there'll be loads more to come, loads more content to come from us, which is loads more editing for Kavin gonna do. But yeah, I mean,
Sorry, man.
I think yeah, that's it from us today. Thank you, Hemaka, for coming on and for doing this.
Dude, always happy to be here. Thanks. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me.